Hey hand letterers, it's Kristen and I am here to do the letter with me session for August. So after you download your practice sheets, we're going to go to our files app and get them. Yours will probably be in the section that says downloads. I have mine in a letter with me section. You will get the brushes that come with this if you don't already have them from previous worksheets. And we're going to open the August file. So there are two files in here. One is a printable PDF, which you could also import into Procreate if you want, and I have a video for how to do that separate. But we're just going to click on the Procreate version, and as you can see, that is going to open straight into Procreate. And if we go to our layers section, it should automatically be on. The blue should be on the layer that says practice here, because that's where we want to write. We don't want to write directly into these practice sheets. So you can turn them on and off just by checking the boxes. And it's going to start off with the first one on top, which is basic monoline. You can turn that off to get the one beneath it and so forth like that. But let's start with the first one. We're going to again make sure we're on the practice here level. And in our Procreate brushes, I am on the set that says lettering practice. And we're going to select the basic mono AF. And I'm going to go ahead and select black for now. And as always, I like to zoom in nice and big. And I want to make sure my pen is about the same size as the lines. So I have mine on a size 8 if you want to follow along with that. Of course, you could always do thinner or thicker, but then you would have to adjust the spacing in between the two. Okay, so for August, for my A, I'm going to start at the bottom and draw a tall overturn. And the crossbar I have right on the X height line here, or I'm sorry, that's not even the X height, this is X height in this example, but I have it parallel with that line. And then the U is an underturn, and then an underturn going into an exit stroke. And again, just a refresher, if this is the first one of these that you're watching, it is good practice to pick your pen up after every stroke. And I'm going to do a 2-finger tap to undo because I don't like that one. So pick up your pen after you make one of the basic shapes. Pick up your pen. And that is going to help you get more into the mindset of lettering in place of what is automatic and what you're used to, which is handwriting. That is the difference, is you want to go slow and intentional with lettering. And again, we want to draw shapes, not write letters. My dog in the background. And I'm going a little bit fast here, but you can see I don't always stick, directly to the lines. And I say this in all of these videos, that's okay. These are really just guidelines for you to follow. Don't feel like it has to be perfect directly on them. As long as you like it and it comes out as you want, then everything's good. So one of the things I want to talk about in this session as an extra tip is using colors, because generally I'm just showing you all of this in black because it's just a neutral color that is usually used. Now you can see I got a little bit off because my exit stroke from the U got a little bit off center, so it pushed the T a little bit off center also. So I just try to keep keep things consistent, because if I would have stayed on the T, it might have been too close to the I. So I just also move that T out a little bit. Okay, so what I was saying is let's get back to colors. So to help you remember to pick up your pen each time, it's always fun to maybe play with colors. Let's see, let me pick a good palette. This Cabin Fireplace is a good one. So I'm going to do each letter in a different color. Okay, and then I'm going to lift up my pen and go change to the next color. Now here, because this is going to be 3 strokes, you can change colors, but for the sake of legibility and the ease of being able to read it, I'm going to keep each letter all one color, but I'm still going to pick my pen up for the M. And now I'll change colors. And if you saw last month's letter with me, I talked about how you can get this palette into a little mini palette just by swiping down, and then you don't have to keep on going back and forth. It just makes it a little bit easier to access your colors without having to go up here and tap every time. So now that I got to the end of that, I can go back to the beginning, or I could select a different shade. Really, it's just whatever you like. So even though this makes it a little bit easier, it's still kind of tedious to have to pick a different color every time. I'm going to exit out of here to get rid of this mini palette. So that's a really fun look, a way that you can kind of dress up your letters so everything's just not black and white all the time. But I want to show you a trick that you can set your brushes to do this kind of style without having to change the colors every time. So let's tap into our brushes again, and before making changes I recommend duplicating the brush so you can maintain the original one. So to duplicate it, slide it to the left and select duplicate. Now we can go in and play around with this one, and you can tell the difference because this one has a 1 behind it, so it's the first copy of this one. So let's tap on there, and we're going to go to color dynamics. So there are several different parts in color dynamics. We have the stamp, the stroke, the pressure, and the tilt. So all 4 of these do things a little bit differently. So let's start with the stamp color jitter. You can see we have hue, saturation, lightness, darkness, and secondary color. So if you're not familiar with like color theory, these might be a little bit confusing to you, but I'm going to walk you through pretty easily how to use these. So with the hue, if we change the hue, I'm going to talk about hue a little bit later when we get down here. But you can set the hue anywhere from 0 to 100, same with the rest of these. For this one, I am going to choose secondary color. And I want the secondary color to be at max all the way up. And let's just hit done for now. And go into your color palettes. And if you go to, let's say, the disc color palette, your palette will now be down here at the bottom, and now you have this disc where you can go in and refine colors further. But also notice that there are 2 rectangles up here. So this is where you can choose your secondary color. So anytime there's a brush that has a color dynamic in it, you want to make sure to set your colors here. So let's start with this middle color here, this deep red for our first one, and let's make our second one the yellow. So now we have two differing colors, and now let's go see what that looks like. And this is the part where it might really help to explain how brushes work. So let me zoom in so you can see. It's taking those two colors and doing continuous stamps from them. So if you see here where I stopped, there's just an orange dot. And if I keep stamping, I'm going to get different variations of that dot. So what this brush is doing is it's taking the shape that we gave it, which is a circle. Let me go into the brush settings so I can explain this better. If we go into the shape, you can see the shape of our brush is a circle. But if we go to stroke path, you can see the spacing is none, which means that there is no spacing between as many times as this stamps. So if I increase, let me start here. Let me draw a line. Okay, so you can't see it, but this line is made up of a ton of those circle stamps, just stamp, 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 stamp along the line. But if you increase the spacing, you can see that it moves those a little bit further apart, and you can see that those circles are what makes up the line. So when we are changing the color, it's doing one circle in one color, another circle in another, the secondary color, and it just does a random assortment of those colors, all kind of lined up together. So that is how you get that effect on that brush. So hopefully that explains that function a little bit better. Whoops, I switched brushes. I want to turn that back down. There we go. So that's what those two colors look like. Now you can swap these two colors if you want, or just select the red one and see if that looks any different. And that one doesn't look any different. So let's try maybe the purple and the yellow. Oops. And you can see how that looks. Now what's really neat about this brush is it kind of looks like it's overlapping, so it gives it a little bit of a 3D appearance, which is nice. And that is how you can play with the stamp brush dynamics. Okay, so now that we lettered that, let's go to our layers. I'm going to add a new layer and turn off the one that we just did, and let's turn off basic monoline, which is going to leave us the flourished monoline. So let's go up to our brush and choose mono flourished, because that is the brush that goes with this one. And I'm going to tilt my canvas a little bit because we're writing this on an angle. And my brush size is 8. So for the A, I'm going to start here. And this is a lot of movement all in one stroke. This brush is not pressure sensitive, so this is a monoline style, which means the line is the same thickness throughout. And you can start your flourish wherever you like here. You could start here or here. Let's start here and finish that off. Okay, now let's play with some colors. Again, let's duplicate this, go into the brush settings, and we're going to go back to color dynamics, and this time let's add some saturation to it. So saturation is how much actual color is in this color. So right here you can see that the color that we have selected is right here on this inner circle. So for it to be fully saturated would be up here, and that would be taking all the darkness out of it and making it its full color. So now it's going to, that we turn that brightness up, it's going to stamp this color plus stamps of the lightness. So for my S's, I start here. And it's really hard to see. Oh, I'm sorry, it actually did the opposite. So what it did is it desaturated that color. So it took all of the color out, it kept one color as the color selected, and then took all of the color out of it, which would be over here. It desaturated it, leaving it like black and white, so it's like a grayscale. Let me pick on that color again. Sorry, I got that backwards for you. Now let's go back in, and the lightness is going to again keep that same color, but add more light circles. And the darkness, if by now you could probably guess what the darkness is going to do. It's really hard to see because we started with a dark color, but if you let's select like a bright orange, and now you'll be able to see better how that makes that brush work. So that is a pretty neat effect to use. If you just want to add a little bit of interest, or this might even give it a little bit of texture. So I'm stopping right there, and then I'll finish this flourish here in a different stroke. Okay, so that is how you can do that one. Let's go to, actually let's go to black and back into the brush, color dynamics, and we already did our secondary color, so let's turn that darkness back down. And if you go to hue and turn that all the way up, it's going to kind of do like all of the colors. Well, we have to pick an actual color. So you can pick any color you want, and it's going to do all of the colors in that shade or hue of the color wheel. So you can see I did that all in one stroke. So you really should, again, break it up into separate strokes. Like that's saying different strokes for different folks. We want to have different strokes. Corny, right? Finish that S flourish. So these rainbow ones, as much as I love colorful rainbow, like all of these colors are just like too overwhelming for me. It looks neat, but my brain has a hard time processing all of that. It's like chaos to me. It might be some form of neurodivergence or something, but that's a whole other conversation. Okay, my T flourish, I'm going to start here and go backwards. Like that. So now let's just do, let's try black and white and see what happens there. So that nothing's happening there. Let's do gray and black. Nothing happens there. So it must be that we have to actually have a color. So if you just maybe a dark black and like a really light white, but not quite white. Nope, that doesn't work either. And let's put the hue at like 50%. Oops, I gotta pick a color. Let's go with this pretty pink here. And that's really nice and bright. It's not as busy because we're only using 50% of the color wheel for this color and not 100. It's not at max. So this is a lot prettier. Now if you don't like those little end dots right there, you could always go back and like erase them, or if you wanted to land on pink like this, you could just tap it until you get to a pink. And this chooses the colors randomly, so you would just tap until it gets to that color. And here I don't need to do that because I'm going to draw over it anyway. That's why I always like to end my strokes in the next letter. So instead of ending here outside of it, I want to extend that up into the next letter. Okay, and then finish that flourish out. I'm going to zoom out so I can get, this has to be all in one stroke. Well, I say has to be, but it doesn't really have to be. In my last video, I showed you how you can, I don't know if it was last month or the month before, I showed you how you can break that up into more than one stroke if it's hard for you to finish all of that in one go. That one looks really pretty. Reminds me of like Twizzlers. Okay. Let's go and turn that down a little bit more. Let's turn the hue down a little bit more, say like 20%. And then it'll use even less colors. Actually a little bit harder to see the stamps, but if I zoom in, you can see a little bit of yellow, orange, and the original pink color. So it's only using 20% of the colors that are next to that color on the color wheel. And I'll show you a little bit more what I mean in a minute. That's one big long stroke. And then this one I just kind of met up with the next loop. Okay, so there you have some additional ways of using colors. So again, let's create a new layer. Let's turn that layer off and turn off our Flourished monoline. And now we are going to go to the bouncy brush layer, or actually just, it's going to turn on that, but we want to go to the empty layer. That's where we want to write. And again, let's go to our bouncy brush AF. And I'm going to start with black here. So again, this is pressure sensitive, so when you're drawing away from you, you want to do light pressure, and when you're drawing towards you, you want to do heavy pressure. So light pressure, heavy pressure, light. Whoops, I did too light that I lifted my pen up. And crossbar. So I named this style bouncy because you can see the letters go beneath the baseline when they normally don't. And here now, because I've lettered it off of the original template, the G and the U are too close. So I'm going to start, instead of starting my U here, I'm going to start it a little bit away from the G. But I still want to follow the direction. And now that is going to make me want to shift over the rest of these letters. So I'm going to start the S about right here. And that didn't quite meet up right there, so just fill that in. And I'm going to start the T instead of here, I'm going to start it over here. And then do the crossbar for the T. Like that. So now let's go and play with some colors on this one with the pressure part of it. Let's go with purple, and for our next one we will do pink. And in our brushes, again, duplicate it, go into there under your color dynamics, and this time we're going to go under color pressure, and under hue we are going to, well, let's start with let's just turn it all the way up to the max and hit done. So when we go into our color wheel right now, if you look at this outer circle, our color selected is right here. So when you change the hue to max, it's like 100%, it's going to use 100% of this outer wheel. So it's going to randomly select colors along this wheel. So it looks like it's also set to oh no, that's just for the pressure. Okay, I said that wrong. So sorry, my bad. What it's doing is it's going to use the main color that we selected on the pressure stroke, the part that we put hard pressure on, so the downstroke, and then on the upstroke where it's light pressure, it's randomly going to change the hues. So now we can kind of see what it looks like. Using all of the colors. And next we're going to lower that hue to maybe just like, I don't know, 25%. So these colors will be a little bit closer to the main pink color. So let's go in to our brush and turn that down to say about 20% and continue with the next word. So you can see the colors aren't changing as much as they did up here, but our main color is, although it's not the original color that we chose, it's still somewhere within that 20% of this color. Okay, so you can see the effect that that gives, which is kind of nice. And now let's turn the hue down, and actually let's go to the opposite direction. So it's looking very much like the first one. And this type of brush where it changes colors for the pressure might be very beneficial for you when you're learning, when you're first learning brush lettering and where to put pressure and where to lift pressure. Because I could sit here and say light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure, but when you actually see the colors changing, when I'm doing light pressure, then I start to go into heavy pressure, and then I transition here into light pressure. That might help you to kind of see what I'm saying. All right, let's go back again, and this time let's go with our secondary color. So, okay, we have pink and purple selected. So now it should, with light pressure, use one color, and with heavy pressure, use the other color. You okay, baby? My dog's hacking. Okay, now we can try that with, let me add a new layer here. Let's try that with using the purple this time. So you can see how it does the opposite there, depending on which color you have selected. So before I had the pink selected, now the purple is selected, and the pink is the main color while the purple is the secondary color. You can see how that kind of looks nice and like shaded almost. So with this, you could also go in and do, let's say, pink and use black. And that also leaves a really nice effect to there. Or let me select the pink to finish up. You can have black letters with a little bit of color added to them as well. Okay, so that is our bouncy brush words. Again, new layer, turn off bouncy brush, and we're gonna go into Flourished Classic. So let's go to our Flourished Classic brush. And again, let's duplicate it. Go into, whoops, yeah, sorry. Go into the settings. Let's go to color dynamics, and this time we're going to focus on stroke. So with this, if you tap on drawing pad and let's just say blue. Okay, right now nothing's on, so every time we make a mark, it's going to be blue. But if we turn our hue all the way up, remember it's going to use all the colors on the color wheel. So you can see that's just like, I can't really zoom in, but you can see there's a variety of colors there. But if I turn that down to say about 50%, it's going to stay within 50% of that wheel. So it's just doing the greens, blues, and purples, like the analogous colors. And then if you turn that down even more, let's say 25%, every time you do a new stroke, again, the colors are going to be a bit more closer together and not go off too much. Let's go down to 15. Let me erase this. So 15 gives a nice variation as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick it at 20 and see what happens. Let's hit done. Again, we're on this pink color. I'm going to zoom in, and this is also a pressure sensitive brush, so we want the thick downstrokes. Let me just see if this is, yes, so I am on a size 18. And for my A, I'm going to start here at the top and do heavy pressure down, light pressure for all of the flourish, heavy pressure down, light pressure up, and you can see it's a subtle change, but it's still a change. And then I can finish out that flourish there. Again, very, very subtle change in hue. If you have two colors that are too close to each other, like you want more of a pink in here, just undo it and try again. See, this is more of an orange. So there's a pink. And because it's random, you can just do the undo button and try again with a different stroke. Okay, and then you have a really nice, there's just a little bit of a subtle color change on this, but it still gives it some interest, a little bit of pop. Let's try that again, but with a different shade. Let's do like a pretty blue for sunglasses. Now here, when I finish this flourish, I kind of want around the same color, so if it chooses another color, which it did, you saw it choose that light blue, I'm going to undo that and try again until I get something similar or close enough. There we go, that's a good one. So that's how I get around it selecting colors that I don't want. I messed up on that circle. Because that was off the screen, I had to lift my pen up there where it crosses over. So now I'm going to continue, and that is luckily the same color this time, so I don't have to undo it. If you want a different color, you can certainly keep it, whatever it chooses. So with the S, I start with heavy pressure, and then release to do light pressure, and then start with heavy pressure again, and then go into light pressure. That's too close to that color. Okay, so heavy pressure, light pressure, heavy pressure, but I'm going to undo that. Heavy pressure, light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure, and then come up and finish that out with a flourish. Okay, now let's go in and turn that off. So again, with the stroke, that means every time you pick up your pen and put it down, let me choose a color here. Let's go with red. It's going to do something different with each new stroke. So for saturation, you can see that takes it and desaturates some of the lines, so it takes some of the color out. Lightness. This is probably already, let's go to that color wheel. This is probably already, yeah, this is already up here with the lightness, so it's not doing much changes in this one. Let's just keep this here. So you can see there's not very much change there with the lightness. Let's go back in and do the darkness. So now this one is randomly adding a darker shade to the color, so you get some that look black, some that are just a really deep blue. Then again, that's all the way up at max, but if we turn that down a little bit, maybe to like 30%, say 35%. Every time we pick up our pen, it's going to add a different shade of the color that we have selected, because it's adding some darkness to that randomly. Okay. And then finally we're going to do our secondary color, Let's put that up at max and go in and choose a secondary color. We could use black. Let's do black first, and then we can change to a color on the next one. Okay. So this is all one stroke. Now I want to try to get it to be black again, so it looks like it matches that letter. Or if you're having an issue, you can do that whole letter in one stroke and pick up your pen. And now when I put it back down, it's going to be a different shade of our secondary color. So this kind of combines the original color and your secondary color to get a new shade of that hue. So I want to keep this all one color, so I'm going to do one whole flourish. Like that. Okay. And finally, if we, I can't remember if we did color, I know we did color pressure, I can't remember if we did all of them. Let's just try secondary color for color pressure, and instead of black this time, let's choose purple and that light blue. And now this is going to change. Yeah, I remember we did this one now. This is going to change the, I'm having like a brain fog at the moment. This is going to change the colors depending on the amount of pressure. So hard pressure is going to be 1. Color we selected, which is this purple or maroon, and light pressure is going to be the secondary color, which is the light blue. And it's really hard to see on my screen, but if I zoom in really far, you can see like right here, it's taking this purple and the light blue and kind of combining them. It might be easier to show you if I choose like more of a pink. So I have like a pink and a blue. And you can see where pink and blue make like a purple. So where I am, what's the matter, baby? If I add a little, like this is no pressure, this is full pressure, and this is medium pressure. So like the medium pressure is going to be a combination of those two colors. He's crying because my husband just came home. Okay, so that is all of the ways I change the color dynamics on my brushes. Color tilt, I'm going to show you, but I don't use this because this way requires tilting your pencil, and because we're hand lettering, I don't do that. But I'll show you anyway. So let's turn the hue up on this one, and whoops, I'm gonna have to change brushes anyway. Let's turn this off, add a new layer, turn off our Flourished Classic, and now we're going to be using the Quirky, which is our last set of words. Let's go into the brush and change it to Quirky. Again, duplicate that. Let's go in to our color dynamics and let's turn up the hue on color tilt. So again, we have our pink, and if I'm writing normally, even if I have my pencil a little bit at a tilt, it's going to pull up that color. But if I really tilt my pencil, you see how it pulls in different colors. So because I don't letter on such a drastic tilt, I never really use this feature. But I will show you. So I have to really tilt this to, whoops, let me change the size. We have it size 10. So you can see it's really hard for me to write this way or letter this way. The tilt is good if you kind of use the artists, how artists loosely illustrate things with this type of holding your pencil, but it is not good for hand lettering. So that is, I just wanted to show you how that works so you have a understanding of it, and it has the same as the other ones did, these sub levels. So let's just go back to normal. So let's just go back to black, and we're going to finish out our words in black, but feel free to play around with various colors and coming up with different combinations, and play around with it and see what it does. Because honestly, I learned brush making by playing with everything and testing it and saying, what does this do? What does this do if I turn it all the way up? Just to kind of see the difference that it would have. And then I would turn it down a little bit to tweak it and see, does it look better, if it's only halfway or a quarter of the way. So play with everything. And like I said, duplicate your brushes first. That way if you mess up, you can just delete the brush and start over, and you won't mess up the original brush. And let me start here with this S. Also, there are several brush making courses out there that have come out recently, ever since Procreate came out with its updated brush studio. I learned to make brushes before it updated the studio, and once it did update, it had a lot more features that we could use to make brushes with. So I ended up taking a course on it by, oh gosh, I forget her name, Karen from iPad Lettering, and she partnered with somebody else on it. Her name's not coming to me at the moment, but it was a full course on how to make brushes in Procreate, which the majority of it, like I said, I already knew from using Procreate for so many years, but it was really helpful with the new features that I didn't quite understand. So it was good for beginner brush makers is what I'm saying. Also, the twins Jillian and Jordan from Lovely Loops have a really good brush making course. If anybody's interested, let me know and I'll give you the link. And I always recommend any of their courses because they are like the most thorough teachers. Like, they cover everything beginning to end. I don't really like that O. I'm going to redo that O. So let's go to the eraser. What was I saying? They're just so thorough with everything. Like, they answer questions I don't even think to ask sometimes. And they're very both visual and like mathematical in their explanations. So they have, you know, visuals for you to use, but they'll also have, like, if you're a mathematical thinker and you need like charts and graphs and stuff like that, they'll explain it that way as well. They kind of gear their teaching style to the different styles of learning, as opposed to, like, me, I'm just doing, like, right now you can hear me speaking if you're a hearing person, and you can see me writing, but I'm not showing you, you know, charts and graphs, or having you get up and do twirls or anything for your auditory movement, or not auditory, for your kinetic movements, that kind of thing. So anyway, what I'm saying is they're wonderful teachers. If you're looking for a class that makes to teach you how to make brushes, I would definitely recommend theirs. So there we have our quirky August words, and all of the tips on making colorful brushes. So once you make these brushes, feel free to feel free to use them in if you want to use them. Let's turn that down. In your designs, if you want to use them in something that you make for your shop, like, you know, if you're making, say, like a sticker or something. So I'm just going to write the same word. With a different brush. And with the colors changed a little bit using pressure. So light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. So I'm using the pressure sensitive color dynamics. Just to show you how you can get different looks for the same word, just by changing, number one, changing the style of the brush, number two, changing the color dynamics of the brush. But the same word and the same style of lettering will look different. So there you have it. Those are your tips for the month. Please let me know if you have questions. And I will see you back here again in September. So there are all of our words. And feel free to share yours. I can't wait to see your progress. Thank you, and happy lettering.